Islam. Ian said that his last 4 opponents are much better than your last 4 opponents. I'm curious if you agree with that assessment and what you think of the people that he has faced.
Last 4? Before he said last 5. And I've said like why he don't respect his teammate Charles Oliveira. Now he say why last 4. I don't know. When he have good opponents, he just lose. That's it. When he have Shavkat, if he talk too much, just look at your fight. That guy beat you 4 rounds. That's it. Yeah, I think he's good person, good guy, but he act like he's like bad boy, something like this. But I tell in the interview also, we will make him humble, we will make him good guy.
And we'll see what happens. Listen, if Islam may retire,
I can feel him.
He may retire. He's done a lot. He's competed in 2 different weight classes and won world championships in 2 different weight classes. If he beats Ian, if he submits Ian and says, I've had enough, I'm going to do what Khabib did and I'm going to coach now, I could see that. And then I could see Morales protest for the fucking undisputed title.
Yeah.
You had that face-off with Islam last night on the rocky steps and everything. Any takeaways from that? Does he look like, a true welterweight now to you? And
he's not going to be undersized when it comes to weight. There's not going to be any difference from a strength point of view. He's going to be strong. He's going to be weighed the same as me. However, I physically couldn't make 155. So when we talk about natural welterweights, I'm bigger. I think it's more stylistically this fight is interesting than size. I just kind of felt like yesterday he didn't want to be there. He didn't want to be at the face-off. I sensed a little bit of like nervous energy from him, but those face-offs, they're fake. They're for social media, they're for Instagram, they're for obligations, they're not for us. The face-off that matters to me is Friday. When we've made weight, we've done all the hard work, we show up in front of the fans, and it's the last time we get to look at each other before we meet in the octagon. That's the one that matters to me.
Well, I think Islam would have to be a strong favourite, but I think Ian's going to give him some problems because Ian's a tall guy. He's got great jiu-jitsu. He's got great striking. Yeah, I think Ian Garry's going to give Islam a lot of problems.
Okay, but is that enough problems to defeat him, or do you think Islam still takes him?
Yeah, I think Ian Garry can win. I think he can walk away with it, to be honest.
Islam. I don't see anybody who can stop him right now in this division.
I think it's a really good fight, and I think Ian is going to surprise a lot of people with how talented he is and how skillful he is. Actually, I trained with him for the Carlos Prates fight, so I'm excited to go see him perform as well. And I think he gets it done. So we'll see.
I think Makhachev is bigger, and he's stronger, and like he got more power, and he gonna take him down and hold him and submit him. Yeah.
I think it's hard to count on Islam right now. He's just so dominant. I don't see Ian having a lot of options to winning that one.
Man, it's very interesting to see how this fight plays out because one of the only loss that Ian Garry has been against a real tough grappler when he fought
takedowns. And that's where he can win rounds or even get the finish. I think Islam's going to get the win. He can definitely get the submission to finish. I think he can get it to the ground. I can see Ian Garry having success in some of his stand-up, some of the wall work stuff. I think he will mix it up, try and stay very long and be very patient. I think he's going to have to play a boring style to be very effective and try and do it for 25 minutes, which is going to be hard. I'm going to have to go with Islam. I think he eventually gets it down. He'll win rounds because of that. And not only that, he can get the finish.
Obviously, you and Khabib have worked together now for a while, but having Islam Makhachev a part of that coaching experience with you, that must have made you proud just to see his mentorship and the impact that he has on the fighters in the gym.
Well, he's always had that mentorship, and he's always been with us in the corner when he wasn't fighting. So this is not the first time I've had Islam in the corner with me. No, we've had him numerous other times in the corner with us. Just probably people don't remember, but he's been in the corner with us quite a few times. He's an exceptional corner, and he cares. He's a champion with a heart that cares about his guys. And he did the same thing Habib did when Habib used to do sparring, and then he was done with sparring, and he knew some of his other brothers would come and spar. Habib wouldn't go out and train. He'd watch the sparring and give advice. That's Islam, the same thing. Same thing. So they're following the same footprints as each other. And, it gives me a lot of joy to see this from these guys because they're giving back for what they got back from their guys. Like what Habib's father gave to Habib, Habib is giving back to his fighters. What I gave back to them, they're giving back to their fighters. So it's kind of like one of the family things, we follow the traditions of the people that taught us.
Dude, I think Ian gets it done. I think Ian's good. He's so big, he's so long, and he's so confident. And then Habib came out and said, hey, Ian's a hard matchup for us. He's long, he moves well, he moves a lot. He's not going to go in there and get single leg easy dumped. He's going to scoot back, he's going to throw. This is an epic fight, dude.
The final days before Islam Makhachev and Ian Machado Garry meet at UFC 330 have produced exactly the kind of tension that makes a fight like this impossible to ignore. The press conference has added another layer to an already fascinating matchup, and now, with only 2 days separating the fighters from the octagon, the attention has shifted from hype to one question: which man actually has the better answers when the fight gets difficult? This is why analysts within the combat sports community are paying such close attention. On the surface, this is a matchup between two very different styles and two fighters who believe they can control the terms of the contest. But underneath that, there is a much bigger tactical battle developing. Makhachev wants to impose his grappling, pressure, positioning, and control. Garry has to find ways to keep the fight in areas where his movement, range, timing, and striking can create problems. And that is what made the final press conference so important. At this stage of fight week, there is very little left to hide. Training camps are finished. The game plans have already been built. Both fighters have spent months preparing for the same opponent, and now the final face-to-face moments become another test of composure. Every reaction, every exchange, and every moment of confidence gets examined because the fight itself is now so close. But serious analysts are not judging this matchup simply by who looked more confident at the microphone. The real question is what happens when the cage door closes. Makhachev enters this fight with one of the clearest identities in modern MMA. His greatest advantage is not simply that he can wrestle, it is the way he can connect different phases of the fight. He can use striking to create reactions, pressure an opponent toward the fence, change levels, secure control, and then turn a small opening into a long sequence of grappling exchanges. That matters enormously against a fighter like Garry, because if Garry is forced to spend too much energy defending takedowns, escaping positions, and getting back to his feet, the fight can become completely different from the striking contest he wants. Even successful defensive sequences can carry a cost. Constantly fighting grips, defending body locks, protecting the legs, and standing back up can gradually reduce a fighter's speed. That is one of the biggest questions heading into UFC 330. Can Garry make Makhachev pay every time he tries to close the distance? Garry's advantage comes from making opponents work to reach him. His height, range, movement, and ability to strike from distance give him tools that cannot simply be ignored. He does not need to stand directly in front of Makhachev and trade. In fact, doing exactly that could make the fight much easier for the grappler. Garry's ideal fight is one where he controls the space. He wants Makhachev reaching rather than arriving cleanly. He wants to maintain enough distance to see the takedown attempts coming. He wants to make every entry uncomfortable, then immediately punish the opponent for overcommitting. That sounds simple. Executing it against a world-class grappler is anything but simple. Several respected voices have pointed out that this matchup could be decided by the battle between distance and pressure. If Garry spends the entire fight moving backward, he may technically remain at range, but he could still lose control of the fight. Makhachev does not necessarily need to land a huge strike to create an advantage. He needs to make Garry react. Once Garry reacts, the next question becomes whether he can reset before Makhachev gets another opportunity. And that is where the psychological side of this matchup becomes interesting. The press conference generated plenty of attention because both fighters understand what is at stake. This is not just another fight on the schedule. For Makhachev, another major victory strengthens his position as one of the defining fighters of his generation and continues the story of a champion capable capable of solving completely different styles. For Garry, this represents something different. A performance against Makhachev could change the way the entire division views him. Beating a fighter with Makhachev's reputation would not simply add another win to his record. It would validate Garry's belief that his skill set can neutralize the kind of pressure and grappling that has troubled so many opponents. That is why the stakes feel so high. The general sentiment among professionals who have studied this closely is not that one fighter has an easy path. Quite the opposite. Each man has a route to victory that becomes increasingly difficult once the opponent starts imposing his preferred style. For Makhachev, the early minutes could be crucial. He cannot afford to give Garry unlimited time to settle into a comfortable rhythm at long range. If Garry begins reading the entries, finding his timing, and forcing Makhachev to reset repeatedly, the pressure fighter could be forced to take greater risks later. But if Makhachev establishes his physical presence early, everything changes. A successful takedown can force Garry to spend precious energy. A second attempt can make him hesitate on his footwork. A strong clinch exchange can make him think twice about throwing certain combinations. And once a fighter starts worrying about multiple threats simultaneously, his striking becomes less free. This is where Makhachev's ability to blend phases becomes so important. He does not need every attack to finish the fight. Some attacks only need to create a reaction. Garry, meanwhile, has to be disciplined. He cannot become obsessed with proving that he can stand and trade. He has to understand that winning minutes against a fighter like Makhachev may require patience. The goal is not necessarily to hurt him with every exchange. The goal is to make Makhachev miss, make him work, and force him to pay for every unsuccessful entry. That creates another major tactical question: cardio. Who looks fresher when the fight reaches the later rounds? A 5-round fight can expose weaknesses that do not appear in a shorter contest. Grappling exchanges become more expensive. Footwork becomes harder to maintain. Defensive reactions slow down. A fighter who looked impossible to catch in the opening round can suddenly become much easier to pressure later. And that is why the first few minutes may not tell the full story. If Garry survives the early grappling pressure and keeps the fight at his preferred range, confidence could grow rapidly. Every defended takedown would send a message. Every clean counter would make Makhachev reconsider his entries. But if Makhachev repeatedly gets Garry to the mat, controls positions, and forces him to fight his way back up, the confidence could move in the opposite direction. The fight could become less about individual moments and more about accumulated damage, fatigue, and control. That is also why those who follow the sport carefully are not dismissing Garry's chances simply because of Makhachev's reputation. At the same time, they are not dismissing the champion's ability to adapt. That may ultimately be the most important factor of all. MMA is unpredictable because the first plan does not always survive the first serious exchange. A fighter may enter expecting to dominate with one weapon and suddenly discover that the opponent has an answer. The great fighters then make adjustments. Can Garry change his approach if Makhachev successfully closes the distance? Can Makhachev adjust if Garry consistently denies his first layer of pressure? Can either fighter maintain composure when the fight stops looking like the version they imagined during camp? Those questions could decide UFC 330. There is also the possibility of a fight that starts cautiously before becoming increasingly tactical. Garry may spend the opening minutes measuring distance and testing Makhachev's reactions. Makhachev may patiently look for patterns rather than rushing into dangerous exchanges, and that patience could be critical. The fighter who becomes emotionally frustrated may be the fighter who makes the first major mistake. This is why the final press conference matters, but it does not determine the result. Confidence at a microphone does not equal control inside the cage. A heated exchange cannot replace conditioning, timing, grappling defense, or tactical discipline. The real evidence will come when both fighters have to solve problems in real time. So, with only 2 days remaining, where does that leave the final prediction? If Garry can maintain distance, defend the first wave of takedowns, stay composed against the fence, and force Makhachev to repeatedly reset, he has a legitimate opportunity to turn this into a striking battle. His length and movement could make the champion work much harder than expected. But if Makhachev consistently gets inside, forces clinch exchanges, secures takedowns, and turns the fight into a battle of control and exhaustion, his style becomes increasingly difficult to overcome. That is why the safest prediction is not based on hype from the press conference. It comes down to which fighter can force the other to fight an uncomfortable fight for the longest amount of time. My lean is toward Makhachev because his ability to connect pressure, grappling, control, and adaptation gives him more ways to change the direction of the contest. But that does not mean Garry is without a path. In fact, the longer Garry keeps the fight standing and makes Makhachev miss on entries, the more interesting this matchup becomes. And that is what makes the final 2 days so compelling. The talking is almost finished. The predictions are being locked in. The face-to-face moments are now behind them. Soon, there will be nowhere left to hide behind confident confidence, interviews, or expectations. There will only be distance, pressure, takedowns, striking exchanges, fatigue, and the ability to make adjustments when everything starts happening at full speed. So now the question goes to you. After everything we have seen from the UFC 330 press conference and all the final predictions surrounding this matchup, do you believe Ian Garry can keep Islam Makhachev at range and pull off the upset, or will Makhachev's pressure and grappling eventually take control of the fight? Let me know your prediction before fight night, and subscribe for more combat sports news, fight analysis, reactions, and final predictions.